So, welcome also to our friends online, and I'll invite you to show me and everyone your beautiful faces. And it's wonderful. Many years ago, I've not done a health workshop in a long time, but as part of the health workshop, I normally, you see, when you say something, you have to give it a proof. Actually, Madhura is a good proof right now over here. She's not wearing any jewelry. And I would tell ladies sometimes, I said, it's okay. Kids, they want toys. Boys sometimes want, I don't know, cars and bikes. Maybe, I don't know, ladies want jewelry or something. So I said, it's okay if your husbands are not getting you jewelry, it's fine. Smile. It's like in the midst of persecution, smile. Why? Because in the Glowing Health and Vitality book, Master writes, he said, a genuine smile is the best ornament you can wear. And when I read that, I said, that's true. If you go to a doctor and he's smiling, and you tell your problems and he's smiling. I used to have a patient when I ran a rural clinic outside Pune, and this poor man had what is called a neuropathic pain. It's a pain related to some nerve injury, compression, doesn't easily respond, actually doesn't usually respond to any medication, and you try more and more medication and you reach, of course, a peak, and what do you do after that? And I remember he was coming and I was trying to give him some medicines and all. And then I realized very quickly what this is. So I started giving him affirmations and a little picture of a God. I used to have these stacks of like about 100 photos. And it was from Christ, Buddha, Krishna, Tukaram. And I would ask them, I said, what's your faith? Do you believe in God? And they say, yeah, I like Ganesha. So I'd pull out Ganesha's picture and I would staple it to the prescription. I would say, eat your tablets and talk to Ganesha. And this person told me that one day he was leaving. We had finished our conversation and I said, well, you can, I think his name was Ramesh or such. And interestingly, he used to come all the way from Pune over there. My consultation was 20 rupees at that time. And so you could easily travel and still save a lot of money. So he came and he would say, and so I had finished what I had to say, written things. And he kept sitting. I said, see you next week. See you in a month, take these medicines. He said, I don't feel like leaving. I said, I'm happy to converse also. But I said, we can talk. But I said, the medically, I've shared what I have to. He said, no, that's not the reason. He said, I know the moment I go out of your clinic, my pain will come back. And that was quite a statement. And then I told him, I said, let's take a picture together. And I said, you keep the memory. You see, there was a person who was thrown into a prison in another country on an island altogether for a crime he didn't do. And the notoriety of this prison or the punishment was nobody had ever come back alive. How would you feel if you were walking into such a thing without a fault? So Swami often said that, you see, people who survive concentration camps, and this person luckily was the first survivor. Then people ask, how did you survive? How do you come out of these things? And Kriyanandaji said, when you are right, then there is the divine power is behind you. It's not our power. But while we are in the ego, we think it's my body, my power, things like that. Those are limited definitions. Of course, food gives power. Of course, medicines have healing power. But that's exactly what they have. Medicines have healing power. It's not beyond that. God has unlimited healing power. Medicines, food, people, your will, everything has come out of God. And so when we tune into that, it is much more. So this person comes out and somebody said, how are you alive? How did he live in that prison? And he said, I was never in that prison. For 17 years, I was always sitting in the garden of my French home with my mom. He said, I just didn't allow my mind to tell me I am in the prison. And Kriyanandaji had a beautiful experience like that. He had a dream. He's written it very beautifully in the book, The New Path. And the dream is that he and some of his friends are captured and they've been put in this very high, they are basically, later he realizes it's a watchtower, but they are in this room, they can't see outside. And he says the pattern of this room is every morning some soldiers will come They wake them up, they beat them, really beat them hard, and then basically one or two of them faint, and so they let them be. Then they go back. They are so tired from the beating that they fall asleep, they faint. When they are awake, they are given some food. Next day the soldiers come. Twice a day they get this nice prasad, as Ramana Maharshi once said. Somebody once, there was a theft in his ashram, and in the morning the people came to know. The devotees came running. They said, "My God, Guruji, what happened?" And first he said, well, they took the utensils, they took the murti, this and that, and then he said they beat they beat the cow also, and they were really angry thieves. And they said, then one of them asked the question everybody had in mind. They said, did they touch you? Did they beat you? He said, yes, I also got some prasad. So that's the attitude, He didn't get a beating. He said, I got some prasad. I also got some prasad. So anyway, it so happened. So Swamiji said one day, he and his friends, they were so tired they're like, well, this is our life. What can be worse than this? So they planned that when these guys come, even though they are stronger than us, more than us, we will overpower them and we will try to escape. And they pretended they are fainting and all. And soldiers came, they got up and they beat them up and ran. And just didn't look back and ran. And after Kriyanandaji in the dream realized that he had run quite a distance, it struck him, I should look back and see if they are following me. And he looked back and nobody was following him. But the watchtower he could see from a distance was the same, and those who had not escaped were being beaten, and he knew this is how it is. Now it's quite a painful dream, of course, but Swami said, you see, you have to choose to wake up from this prison cell. This is a beautiful cell on one level, otherwise we would not be having this satsang, we would not be trapped over here. There's a lot of beauty in things and such. Because God is beautiful, He has put beauty. So strange it is that even a criminal finds some joy in his criminal activities, Swamiji said. Because at the heart of everything there is joy. He's looking for joy. But of course, Swami said he will realize he's looking for it in a wrong place. And so it was the power of the mind. And I was telling this devotee that, now look at this picture. Keep thinking your counseling is going on. Your consultation is not stopping. And he told me that it became so good that he, of course, fortunately didn't have to come for any further treatment beyond that point. Now, I want to share a little bit about how do you love, or more importantly, somebody may say that's impractical. Why should I love somebody who's persecuting me, beating me up, planning to kill me, like Christ was crucified? Okay, it was Christ who said, forgive them, Father. I cannot, I should not maybe. I don't think it's practical for me to do that. Well, just yesterday we were having a chat with Jayaji and he said it is absolutely practical. What can you do about what people do to you? The answer actually, if you accept, is nothing. Mostly you can't do anything. Now, sometimes you can protect yourself, but mostly nothing. I remember when I had to start the clinic, Swamiji asked me, start a clinic, and there were so many permissions to take that I decided to get a shipping container because that is counted as temporary building and no permissions. You buy today, start day after. So I ordered one. It was ordered at the port at JNPT, and at a certain point I was told come and collect it. So I went with some friends and they had some other work. So basically they said, you go alone. So I said, well, I don't know where it is ordered. They said, this is the address, this is the place. So I said, okay. Now I tell you, ports are no malls. A port is what it is. It's marshy and mushy. There's tractors and cranes and God knows what all. Thousands of containers coming, moving. And I had to go to a particular place. So I went and I saw the container. They were doing some final touches. And they said, well, sir, it's ready whenever you are ready to take it. I said, I'm ready right now. I have the money. They said, okay, your amount is so-and-so plus 2,000 rupees. And then you can take it. So in these some hours, I had gotten a truck. So I said, what is this 2,000 rupees over here? You didn't tell me about it. They said, oh, that's like for the local goon over here. He needs the hafta. So I said, no, that's not right. I said, I cannot. And I said, I'm happy to have a word. He said, no word. You cannot have a word. This guy carries a gun, and this is just the owner of this huge company. I mean, he was having like 500 containers and these gigantic cranes and whatnot. He said, no, sir, better to give it. I said, see, if it was my money, I would give it maybe. But first I need to see the person. I said, this is ashram money. I'm not giving it. And put my container on the ship, on the truck. Truck is waiting. And these guy, he had other guys over there. They said, no, keep this container aside. I said, look, it's getting late. I have to go. He said, you have to decide. I said, I have decided. He said, you're not going to listen like this. You need to meet our boss. I said, sure, happy to have a word. So he called me. They connected me on the phone and he just rattled off things. And I said, you wait, I'm coming. I said, okay, I'm waiting. And while I was waiting, everybody gathered over there from the company, the owner, the assistant, the accountant. They said, please leave. This guy can kill you maybe. I said, no, let's see what happens. I'm not going to leave. And he came. Now, interestingly, he came in a car, big car, and there was a little child next to him. So he came, he said, like, who is this guy? And they say, he's the one. And so I was focused on that boy. There was a little boy, his son. And he says, as if I have nothing else to do. And he said, I was picking up my son from school, and here you are. Is he the guy who was not willing to pay? He said, yes. And now it's very interesting. You see, God, Swami said, he's not a B-grade director or playwright. God's play has layers after layers after layers. And interestingly, since morning I was praying for 2 boys over there, young boys, and I was thinking, I hope they have a better future. What are they doing over here? And he asked one of those boys to beat me, to slap me. And he instantly obliged. And I got some prasad. Now, once I got the prasad, he says, suddenly everything changed. Now, because in between people were saying, don't beat him, he's a doctor, he's a monk, and please try to understand. Because they saw I'm not understanding, so they tried to convince him. And then he says, I didn't want to beat him. But look how he's behaving. And he says, I didn't want to beat you. I said, it's fine. I truly was feeling so much joy and bliss, which continued for hours. I said, it's okay. I said, but you shouldn't ask. He said, I didn't want to ask. I said, but you were asking. And then I said, here's the money. Keep it. He said, I don't want your money. I said, no, you were asking. He said, why didn't you give it sooner? I said, I wouldn't give it. So we were having this suddenly a whole different conversation. And then, of course, I don't think he accepted the money, and then I left. This one boy who was selling me that stuff came about 30 kilometers behind me. I didn't even realize. He must be finishing up something, and he caught up with me and he apologized. I said, it's not your fault. I said, these things happen, it's beyond your control. And he said, sir, I'm moving to Pune. I'd like to meet you again. I said, sure. And he came 3 months after that incident. And I said, oh, what are you doing? He said, I found a job over here. And I said, how are others doing? He said, that company shut down. He said, that goon did something else. The police came after him and he's in prison. And he said, that company where you bought things, he said, it's now under lock and key. I felt very bad for them. You see, when Judas, for example, was going to do what he did, he thought he was right. And he told the Roman officers about Christ's whereabouts, and Christ was captured. And of course, Judas killed himself. Such was his remorse. But Master said that, he said, in this past century, Judas reincarnated as a disciple of Ramakrishna Paramhansa. And he still had some attachment to money, for which the other monks would tease him. So make no mistakes. When God tests you, it is not an ordinary test. You really have to be clear. I want nothing but you. And Master says, as long as you say, let me think about it. Somebody once went to Babaji cave, and naturally when you go to a place like that, the person was praying, I hope I see Babaji. And they told me that I felt his presence in the cave right behind me. But the shameful awareness came to this devotee. They said that the moment I felt him, unfortunately, my first thought was, I hope he doesn't take me with him, because my family is waiting for me. Now, look at the test. Well, of course your family is waiting for you, but is Babaji, like Lahari Mahashaya told his wife, don't you think he who has asked me to do this work will take care of you after? She was concerned about money. Somebody is concerned about who will take care of my family. Well, it is your family, but it is God's family. And when we ask Him above all to take charge, then He can ask us, does ask us to step aside, that Aditya, kindly move out of the way now, since you've invited me. And that is where our willpower is required. We know greater the will, greater is the flow of energy. Greater is the flow of energy, greater is the magnetism. And Master said, you can make the spiritual path as long as you like, or instantly you can prove to God that you love Him above everything, and He will come to you to that degree in this instant. I'll tell you another sweet example. I think I burnt a lot of karma due to my rural clinic. So I was doing another camp in one of the 16 villages I used to go to, and this one man came, and he came with a gun, and he put his gun, and he is seeing clearly. I have a stethoscope around my neck. Everybody else has to be a patient. So he comes, he says, who is the doctor here? So I said, I'm the doctor here. And he said, yeah, you're the doctor. Okay. So what are these medicines that you're distributing in your bag? I said, these are allopathic medicines. Some are naturopathic. They are generic. They are from a company which is the cheapest in all of India. And they are wonderful. He said, what if somebody dies from a side effect of your medicines? Who is answerable? I said, well, I'm answerable. I said, but I am a registered doctor. And I said, dying from a side effect is a very rare thing. I said, don't worry about it. I'm here to handle side effects also. He said, yes. And then he thumped his gun. He said, I'm just asking what happens if somebody dies. I said, yeah, don't worry. So something must be there, and he just couldn't stand me. So anyway, a month later, I get a call very early morning that some child has come looking for me. And this child, so I come down from the monastery and I go, and this person says, my dada is having chest pains and this and that, and please come. So I went with him. I went to a particular house. I'm treating this man. He starts feeling better. And then we are having tea. And suddenly in walks this man. And he was like returning from his morning walk or something. And he came and he looked at me. He said, Dr. Sahab, what are you doing here? I said, I came to see this old man. He said, what happened to him? He's my father. I said, well, he was not well. So he asked his father, he said, you were not well? He said, oh yeah, I almost died. He said, thankfully he saved me. And then our eyes met for a brief moment. And it's just fine. You do something, don't do it. You won't be happy, Swami used to say. I was thinking again about that child in front of whom this happened. I said, why? You have a wonderful child, you have a good car. I don't know if it was all from bad money, but I was like, can't you just live your life? You're going around showing the gun to people, beating up people. But such is the nature of God's duality. In comes Christ. In comes Krishna, and Kamsa wants to wipe a whole generation. Comes Christ, and people are trying everything they can. Intelligent people, priests, they're trying everything they can to get rid of him. And what does he say? Once they have gotten rid of him almost, in the last few breaths he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And Master said Christ's greatest sermon was given from the cross. Now, let's come back to that question. Why would you do that? Swami Kriyananda, Padre Pio, They were persecuted for decades on end. It's almost like Swamiji used to say, I sprinkle persecution on my breakfast cereal every morning. He said, it's just how it is with some people. And why? What was his response? He says, I choose to love. And somebody asked him, why? And he said, you see, ordinary love, he said, is given with a condition. If you love me, I will also to that degree love you. He said, I don't love like that. He said, for me, love is a commitment. It does not depend on the next person. Now you may say, well, how do you express it? You can't. You can't express love to a gangster. He doesn't understand the language of it. You can't express love and free medicines to somebody who's holding the gun at you. But you can be calm. Calm feeling is love, Kriyanandaji said. You are not responding to that hatred. That is love. By and by, they may say, I like what's going on over here, and looks like there is some power over here. And so Swamiji said that for my own, he said, I've been hurt once. Why should I be hurt the second time? So he said, once was enough. And I choose, and that word choose is important. It again goes back to greater the will, greater is the flow of energy, and greater is our magnetism. Ultimately, as today's reading says, if perfection lies in self-transcendence, and make no mistake, friends, religion itself many times has been brought to a level where people say, yeah, this much is okay, 20 minutes a day. Somebody will say 8 minutes a day. Somebody will say once a year, Char Dham at the end of my life. Well, God couldn't care less about 3 minutes versus a whole lifetime spent in the Char Dham. What God is really after is your love, is your heart. And so that perfection that it demands, Swami says, comes when you forget yourself in the process. When you say, Lord, thank you for reminding me that this is not my place. Thank you for reminding me that even like the ninth beatitude of Christ says, again, all those words were from the ninth beatitude. If people persecute you, say wrong things about you. He says, so they treated the saints who came before you. Such is the price you have to pay to enter the kingdom of God. And let us be very clear about that to not bring it down to a point where you say, why are difficulties coming in my life? Swami says, if they are not coming, you are not doing enough. Maybe you have made everybody happy. Maybe you're going according to what, give me just 2,000 rupees and everything will be fine. Oh, here's the 2,000 rupees. Do things my way, it will be fine. God's ways are not our ways. And so once we reach that point where you say, Lord, I want only Thee, then Swami said it works out very well. And to finally close this story of Padre Pio, Swami Kriyanandaji, that Swami said that, you see, when you bring in a great light, he says that light has to interface with a large darkness. If you have a 1 watt bulb, you will see a little flicker of a light somewhere. If you have a stadium lights turned on, well, from the distance of the city ends, you can see something is going on. But that light quite really has to push back that darkness. And in this world of duality, the greater the light, the greater is that. So sometimes people, if our understanding is not clear, we can make those decisions. Oh, Swamiji, so many people hated him, he must not be great. Well, turn it on its head. So many people hated him. So many people killed Christ. So many people couldn't stand Padre Pio. Hence, it's almost a proof that they were children of light. And let's take this in our life as we try to achieve that state of calmness, joy, that Swami says, what is your ego is being tested. Those are fears. We seek that familiarity, that, if I, like my younger sister, when she met Swamiji the first time, she was so childish, hadn't read a single book. This is what she said. One of the things she said, my parents are very disappointed that he has joined your work. And Swami said, My mother was also disappointed. And then he said to her, Prerna, we should all be ready to disappoint our parents for God. I mean, I bow before him again and again for never compromising on what it really demands. Any parent who hides the realities of life, any teacher who hides the rigors of the future from the student, any guru, true gurus would never, but lesser teachers do when they hide it. Well, you're going to have to face it sooner or later. Your only strength comes when you have developed it, when you have worked on it, and when you have finally, like Swami said, attained that perfection. This was that statement which is mentioned, Seek ye, be ye perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. You know what that statement has become in modern translations of many Bibles and church books? Be ye good, even as your Father which is in heaven is good. Swami said even a gangster is good, at least for his family. Goodness will not take you anywhere. The Bhagavad Gita is very clear. Good karmas do not take you to God. They take you closer to God. But getting a slap can be very good karma. Why? Because maybe I burnt a lot of karma in the moment. It was certainly very hot. So, you suddenly say, wait a minute, this was fast forwarding. I just met somebody who had cancer and I heard from him exactly what I've read from so many cancer patients who live to tell the tale. But I'm sure many who die also may have this attitude. This person said, Adityaji, cancer was the best thing that happened to me. He said, I came on the path because I got cancer. I came on the path because I had limited days. I stopped everything else. I changed myself. I reviewed my priorities. When you think you have 40 years to live, you live in a certain way. When you know you have 20 days to live, 6 months to live, you sit with a pen and paper and get things straight. So what seems like painful, and how could God has forgotten me? Listen, I've been singing listen all my life. And here, this is how you come to me. Well, God knows how to come to each one of us. So let's hold that gratitude. Let's hold that attitude of love, which was exemplified by Swamiji, by Master. And guess what? You and I don't have to generate it. Master once was telling the monks, he said, I don't expect you to overcome temptation, all tests. But I expect you to resist their pull. Which is to say, that is exactly how you derive. Who is giving you the strength to resist? Who gives you the strength to love? Love is not ours in the first place. It is God's. And when we say, Lord, here and there, I will apply that, then I think God is able to fill us more and more. And when we say, no, I'm not going to face this, He says, I will wait. And it seems a little difficult, but I tell you from little experience, it is not very difficult. And it is deeply releasing, deeply relieving. From people asked me, how did you feel? I said, I actually checked my wristwatch, 2.5 hours, a good amount of bliss. Because I was driving back for those couple hours. I was like, this is some slap. Was he a saint or was he really a gangster? He touched me and he threw me into ecstasy. Let's take a moment to inwardly thank Master for being in our life, giving us the sweetness of divine love. And as Master said to Swamiji, when Swami was praying, help me love you the way you love me, Master said, how can a little cup hold an entire ocean? And he told Swamiji to expand his heart. So let's pray to the Masters. May they expand our heart, which we are keeping open for them. May they fill it again and again with their presence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.